So today we're going to be talking about possessive adjectives o adjetivos posesivos. ¿Cuándo los usamos? When do we use possessive adjectives? We use possessive adjectives when we are talking about ownership, when we want to show ownership of something. For example, we have mi hermano, my brother, tu papá, your dad. There are 5 possessive adjectives: mi, tu, su, nuestro, and vuestro. And we're going to talk about each one of them individually. Now, it's very important to remember this. Possessive adjectives agree with the nouns that they modify. What this means is that they agree with the thing that's possessed, not the possessor. So let's look at what examples we can find. Mi prima, which means my girl cousin. Mis primas, my girl cousins. I still possess that. Those are my cousins. But the possessive adjective mi has to agree with prima. In the second example, it has to be plural because primas becomes plural. Mis primas, but the same person still owns this, which is yo. Tu abuela, your grandmother. Tus abuelas, your grandmothers. So who owns the grandmothers? You. But in the first one, tu has to be singular because abuela is singular. In the second one, tus has to be plural because abuelas is plural. So this is showing that they agree with the thing possessed, not the possessor. The noun they modify is abuelas or abuela. Tu has to change because they have to agree with that noun. Nuestro hermano, our brother. Nuestras hermanas, our sisters. Now this one changes in 2 different things. Nuestro hermano is singular, but it's also masculine. In the second one, it's hermanas. Hermanas, you know, it's plural. And it's also feminine, so it has to change to nuestras. But it still means our in both of them. So let's talk about what they mean. Mi o mis significa my. Tu o tú significa your, informal, and it's singular. Informal. Su has 5 meanings. It can mean his, her, your when it's formal, so for usted, their, but also your when it's plural for ustedes. So it can have any of these 5 different meanings. Nuestro means our, and nuestro could be nuestra, nuestros, nuestras, depending on the noun, but they all mean our. Vuestro could be vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, or vuestras. It's your when it's formal and plural. This is when it's vosotros that you're talking about. Now let's look at mi and tu. Mi means my. My father, mi padre. My brothers, mis hermanos. So it's still the meaning stays the same. The same person owns them, which is I, but it changes because it has to agree with the noun. Padre is singular, so it's mi. Hermanos is plural, so it has to be mis. Tu means your. When it's informal, when you're talking about tu, your father, tu padre, your uncles, tus tíos. Again, the same person owns them, which is you. And the first one is singular because padre is singular, tíos is plural, so it has to be tus. Now, note 2 words. Tu without an accent mark and tu with the accent mark are pronounced the same. But tu with the accent mark is a subject pronoun that means you. And tu without the accent mark is a possessive adjective that means your. So that's the biggest difference between that accent mark. Su. Su has 5 meanings. His, her, your formal for usted, their, and your for ustedes. Let's look at some examples. Juan necesita a su hermana. Juan needs his sister. So in here it means his. María necesita a su hermana. Maria needs her sister. In this case, it means her. Usted necesita a su hermana. You, formal, need your sister. It means your for usted in here. Ellos necesitan a su hermana. They need their sister. In this example, it means their. Ustedes necesitan a su hermana. You all, in Latin America, need your sister. So there's 5 different meanings for su. Let's look at the difference between tu and su. Su, just like tu, can mean your. So what's the difference? Well, remember that tu is informal. And because tu is informal, you use the possessive adjective tu. Usted is formal, and therefore you will use the possessive adjective su. So basically the difference is just in how formal you want to be. If you're talking to me as a teacher, then you would say su. But if you're talking to your friend, you would use tu. So for example, your sister talking to tu, you would say tu hermana. Your sister talking to usted, su hermana. So for example, if you were talking to your best friend and you were saying your sister, you would say tu hermana because she's your friend. But if you were talking to me and you said your sister, then you would say su hermana because you would talk to me as a teacher as usted. Now let's look about singular and plural. These 3 possessive adjectives that we just looked at, me, tu, and su, they only have 2 forms, singular and plural. Me has me's, tu has tu's, su has su's. That's it. There's no masculine, feminine. In these 3, you only focus on singular or plural. Now, me, tu, and su do not have a masculine and feminine, like I said, so they stay the same regardless of the gender of the nouns. So, for example, mi amigo, mi amiga. It doesn't matter that the first one's masculine, the second one's feminine, me stays the same. What matters, though, is if it becomes plural. So we have tus hermanos, tus hermanas. So if it's plural, you just change it. You just add the s. Su tío, su tía. So let's look at nuestro and vuestro. Nuestro and vuestro have 4 different forms. For example, nuestro has nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras. Vuestro has vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, and vuestras. So when do we use each one of them? Okay, so nuestro means our. We know that. Nuestro hermano means our brother. And that's masculine, and it is also singular, hermano is. So you would use nuestro. Now the second one says nuestra hermana, which means our sister. Hermana is feminine and is also singular. So you would use nuestra. Nuestros hermanos means our brothers. Hermanos is plural and it's masculine, so you will use nuestros. Nuestras hermanas means our sisters. Hermanas is plural and feminine, and therefore you use nuestras. So now let's look at vuestro. Vuestro follows the same rules as nuestro follows. First of all, vuestro means your in the plural. Now, vuestro is used for vosotros. So when vosotros is being used, you're going to use vuestro as their possessive adjective. It applies the same rules. For example, vuestro libro, your book. Masculine singular, masculine singular. Vuestra pluma, your pen. Feminine singular, feminine singular. Vuestros libros, your books. Libros is masculine and plural, so vuestros has to be masculine and plural. Vuestras plumas, your pens. Plumas is feminine and plural, and therefore vuestras has to be feminine and also plural. So right now you're probably saying, what is this? All these different possessive adjectives, some of them have 5 different meanings, but let's go ahead and summarize this, okay? It is very easy for you to determine when to use mi or mis, tu or tus, vuestro, and nuestro, because it's for specific subject pronouns and is very clear. Now, whenever you're in doubt or you're not very sure, or almost positive it's not any of the other ones, then you probably have to use su most of the time because they have 5 different meanings. So when in doubt, go ahead and use su. So now you're going to go ahead and complete the back side of the handout you received yesterday and also the workbook activities. And we will review all of this on Wednesday when I'm in class.